Sure. All right. So I'll do a 3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody, and welcome to week 5. We're excited to have you back again. We're getting closer to midterms. So you're going to start seeing a little bit of frenzied energy as you start to thread all of these topics that you're learning for the last month or so together, leading to the culmination of your first midterm exam, which is next week, just an FYI. So it will be cumulative in HIM 301. So just kind of go through your previous assignments. I'm going to be doing a big push to get as much grading returned to you as possible so that you can feel confident going into your midterm exam. If you have any issues, questions, feel free to toss them my way and I'm happy to walk you through it. There's it shouldn't be too much though. We'll talk more about it next week in the next video for sure. Yeah, so with that, I'll turn over to Lisa and she's going to walk you through what's going on in English 301.
Okay, wonderful. And just to make the point that in English, happily, you may find we don't have a midterm exam. So use that opportunity to really focus on your HIM work in terms of the studying. And then we've just got the regular sort of assignments in week 6 in the English portion of the course. So no midterm on the English side, but I'm appreciating the work that you're doing in HIM, studying for your final or your midterm exam. So, okay. In week 5 of our course, we're focusing heavily, as you can see just as a glance, on peer review and peer reviewing strategies. And the 2 chapters are engaged in the business of getting and receiving feedback. So both, well, getting and receiving is the same, sorry, giving and receiving feedback. And this is useful both for you to think about peer review in the sense of peer reviewing someone else's paper, and it's also very, very useful for revision. So in my classes, I tend to have a big emphasis on peer review, but my hope is that the process helps the writer as much as the person who's being reviewed. And I want to make the point that I never send anything out for publication or even important business letters and these kinds of things without having someone in my field looking at what I'm about to submit. So this is the process that writers use. And in week 5, we'll really delve into this heavily. Peer review. So the grade for your peer review discussion board, so rather than the regular discussion board, it'll be a peer reviewing discussion board now, is going to be heavily based on the feedback that you're offering your peers. And so I'll have more about that in some announcements that I plan to send out because I want to clarify sort of what that means. But I want to let you know too that you've got a lot of support with this in terms of chapter 7, chapter 8, and then these commenting strategies on this video that I've attached. So be sure to watch that. Offer excellent peer review. And by that, I want you to focus more on the large order concerns. First, help your peer make sure assignment to what you're peer reviewing is the annotated bibliography. So have they successfully addressed the assignment in each of its nuances? Is the writing clear? Are you, as the reader, clear on what the writer is trying to convey? Have they conveyed it smoothly, easy for you to understand, but not so easy that you're disinterested? So have they considered audience? Have they considered purpose? These are the kinds of things that you'll want to comment on, and you'll want to comment in depth on them so that you're offering strong, useful, concrete peer review. And then finally, in the complete assignment, that's going to be something that's tied to the HIM content. So more overlap there between the 2 courses. And again, if you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to reach out to me. And that takes me through week 5. So I'll stop sharing.
Great. Yeah, that's a really good point you made, Lisa, about the what was I just had it in my head. writing for the audience. That is so crucial, and because that's one of the big things in business writing. If you forget who your audience is, like if you're prepping something for a manager, it's going to go before a committee of leadership within the hospital. If you're in a hospital environment, then you really want to make sure that you're not writing it for like a blog on Facebook or something. You want to have the correct formality to it. So that's one of the reasons why we really focus on, is the audience appropriate for the assignment at hand? So you're going to get a lot of it. It sounds like when we give you that feedback, if it's not quite right, that we're just hitting you with a penalty for for a minor reason. But it's because it's so important that when you go out into the workforce, that you can write effectively for the correct audience and for the right level that you need to, because some of you are going to go into the management team at some point. Some of you may already be there, given where you're at in your HIM careers. But we want to make sure that as you're that you're preparing yourself effectively for that supervisory role or management role down the road. So audience matters big time. So yeah, just really want to stress that. So for me in week 5, let me get my screen shared here. We're going to wrap up our exploration of privacy within HIM. So this one is going to be considered your HIPAA module. So the big thing here is HIPAA is a continuously evolving animal, and it's a pretty broad area, and you're going to notice in any facility there's going to be a HIPAA privacy officer. So there's an entire FTE dedicated to this topic area because of how big it is and the ramifications it can have if you don't protect patient privacy correctly. So if you make an accidental breach, or if employees aren't shredding documents appropriately, we've all heard about those cases of CVS Pharmacy, Walgreens, where someone looks in the dumpster and they find a bunch of patient files. Guess what? That leads to massive fines from the government. So it's really important that you have a solid understanding of what HIPAA is, what it isn't, and what the requirements are according to the regulations. So for me, you're going to have a pretty decently long chapter, chapter 11. So roughly 30 pages, but it's HIM pages. So they're like super detailed and not the greatest enjoyment of reading. I don't know if you guys know this or not, or you'll feel this or not, but whenever you're reading your textbook like that, it'll like kill your drive to want to read something fun. I haven't read a regular book in a long time because of this stuff. So yeah. You'll also have access to a HEMA library toolkit. Now, toolkits are pretty neat because they're put together by the trade association of HEMA, and they're usually made up of like 15, 20 HIM professionals from multiple domains in the industry. And it basically gives you a definitive guide on how to handle a topic area. So for this one would be release of information. So it's going to give you an overview. It's going to give you situations. It's going to give you advice on what to do when you encounter XYZ scenario. So it's going to be pretty big in scope. So really the most pertinent ones are the first 15 pages. So you will have to have your HEMA membership active in order to access this. So if you're still running into issues with your HEMA membership, just reach out to me and we'll figure it out. All right, and then you've got 2 library articles from HEMA as well. And finally, a practice brief. So you can see it's pretty heavy on the reading. So just keep in mind, next week, you're not going to have as much reading. It's more prep work. So it's a little front loaded. So just it ebbs and flows in terms of the work. You have 2 EHR Go activities. So let's take a look at them real quick. First one is looking at release of information and accounting of disclosures. So that's basically your right to get a listing of who touched your record. So it's a relatively new piece of regulation in the HIPAA world. So because keep in mind, HIPAA came out back in 1996, but it wasn't really implemented until 2003. So there's a lot of, we're into the decades realm at this point. So that's your first one. Your second EHRGO activity is looking at privacy and security. So HIPAA is made up of two primary things in the HIM world, is how to protect or your rights as patients to privacy, and then also how to protect that data that you're accumulating. So the security aspect, do you have privacy screens on your computer? Do you have locks on doors? Is there a barrier between the waiting room and where sensitive information is? So the real, practical aspects of security. So both activities should take you roughly an hour to hour and a half, depending on how quickly you go. And then your third assignment, like I said, it's a front heavy module, unfortunately. But your last one is a joint assignment where we're threading English 1 or English 301 with HIM 301. So we're going to review the same source material that you're reviewing in English 301, and that's going to be the Notice of Privacy Practices. So it's a HEMA library article from 2013. So you're going to explore it from two different perspectives. So in HIM 301, you're going to use that as a way to get an understanding of what the law says you're supposed to do in regards to notifying patients of what your privacy practices are as an organization. So once you have that framework, then you're going to go out to any organization of your choice, and you're going to look up their notice of privacy practice, and then you're going to answer some questions about it. So the goal is 1 to 2 pages, double spaced, which is not that bad. If anyone tells me a 1 page double spaced, I'm sitting there rejoicing, because that's basically 2 heavy paragraphs. So keep it in perspective. And so basically you're going through and just answering 4 key points on what it is. So you're going to want to relate back to the source article, and that should prepare you adequately for this assignment. So all in all, that's it for week 5. So, all right, let me stop sharing. And any other final points, Lisa?
No, just thinking about the assignment you mentioned with the privacy policies of different organizations. I just want to make the point that last year's students, I was kind of expecting it to be a very dry return in terms of what people were finding. And instead, there were some fascinating findings. So I wish you an interesting time with that assignment. I think it's fascinating. It's kind of fun. It's useful. And so I'm excited for your students, Jonathan, to engage with that, and for me to hear about some of it in my part of the article. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whenever we go to the doctor, we always get that slip that talks about what the privacy practice, and I doubt many of us are reading them. So, and it can vary from organization to organization.
Sure. And analyzing it and thinking about, again, audience purpose and what's included and what's not. So great.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.